Good evening. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be back at the 2011 International MUFON Symposium. I appreciate the opportunity to not only serve as MC, but also it is an honor for me to bring up our keynote speaker, astronaut and Dr. Story Musgrave. Story Musgrave was born in 1935 on a dairy farm in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. He was in the forests alone at 3, and by 5, floated his home-built rafts on the rivers. He rode combines at 5, drove trucks and tractors at 10, and when alone in remote fields, repaired them by 13. He never finished school. He ran off to Korea with the United States Marines, where he served as an aircraft electrician and an engine mechanic. He started flying with the Marines and over the next 55 years, accumulated 18,000 hours in over 160 aircraft. He is a parachutist with over 800 free falls. He has 7 graduate degrees in math, computers, chemistry, medicine, physiology, literature, and psychology. He has been awarded 20 honorary doctorates. He was a part-time trauma surgeon during his 30-year astronaut career. He was a NASA astronaut for over 30 years, and he flew on 6 space flights. He performed his first shuttle spacewalk on the Challenger's first flight, was a pilot on an astronomy mission, conducted 2 classified DoD missions, was the lead spacewalker on the Hubble telescope repair mission, and on his last flight, operated an electronic chip manufacturing satellite on the Columbia Space Shuttle. Today, he operates a palm farm in Orlando, a production company in Sydney, and a sculpture company in Burbank, California. He is also a landscape architect, a concept artist with Walt Disney Imagineering, an innovator with Applied Minds Incorporated, and a professor of design at Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, California. Story also performs multimedia presentations on topics such as vision, leadership, motivation, safety, quality, innovation, creativity, design, simplicity, beauty, and ecology. Safe to say that our keynote speaker has accomplished a life in his distinguished career, and it is my honor to welcome to the stage Dr. and astronaut Story Musgrave.
Hey, that's good. Thank you so much, John. And I guess the bottom part of that biography was falling off the page, but it also says he got 7 kids so far. That's funny, but it's not too funny. My oldest is 50, and my youngest is 5. Little Story. She's a lot in my life. I can't get enough of her. And yes, we're working on another one, so you come to a fork in the road and life happens, right? Okay, and Carlo, you can kick off that video, please, and we'll just take a look at the unbelievable privilege that I've had, the places that I have been to witness the world, to make observations, to get the makes my hair stand on end.
We are looking right down over the telescope down the edge of the water, 270 miles away.
And we have got an unbelievable picture from the elbow camera right now.
You can see the entire continent of Australia from here. The whole thing.
The sun and I, streaking through the sky, set down upon Australia. Night comes down to earth below. All too soon, this serene, silent fall through the night has moved the sun to the eastern horizon. Sunrise, another day, another journey begin. The earth beckons, and I follow.
So that's a Hubble Deep Field. And I had the courage to take that telescope and aim it in the dark sky where no ground-based telescope could see anything. They thought they were going to get nothing, but you know what they got. Every time you take a long exposure to anywhere out there, you find another 1,000 or another 2,000 galaxies. That is the incredible playground that we got. It's scary to some people. It's not scary to me. I never wanted to be born in a closet, you know. But you look at that picture, and if your average galaxy has about the same number of stars as the Milky Way, 300,000 or 400,000, billion, sorry, 300 or 400, yeah, have a little more. You're looking at a picture here in which there's 100 trillion stars. That's what you're looking at. Everywhere you aim the telescope, it's another 100 trillion stars. So that's the kind of universe we got. That's our place. So there's massive, just massive numbers out there. Working on the telescope out there, the telescope really worked hard on the Hubble constant, and that is the expansion of the universe. And you look at the separation velocities of different objects, and you look at how far apart they are now, and you bring that back to the Big Bang, and that gives you the age of our universe. So I'll go all kinds of places. I'm a parallel universe person. I think there's multiple universes out there. Why not? I don't have the evidence, but I got the belief and the faith. But at this machine, I came up with 12 billion years for the life of our universe here. So the total number of stars is about 10 to 24. That's about 300 billion trillion. That's how many stars. It's an unimaginable number. It's almost as big as the national debt that we've been working on this week. So I'm also trying to be humorous tonight too. So I'm really glad to be here. I've been meeting a whole bunch of y'all, and you're just gorgeous people. Just fun people, creative people, imaginative people. It's a privilege to be here. So we got huge numbers out there, just unimaginable numbers, and we got 12 billion years. And it's the Galapagos. So it's one of my favorite pictures, the Galapagos. As a model for Mother Earth, at one time, of course, volcanic, it was sterile, molten ash. Nothing there sterile. But by seed or by seed, life comes and life does what it does. And you know it's there. Endless varieties of species and living stuff. So we got huge numbers. We got huge time, and we got this incredible power. What I got here, life. It's powerful. Mother Earth, 4 million different species, that's the power of life. So that number of places over that many billions of years and the power of life, life is throughout our universe. It's everywhere. I can't come up with a number. Let's just say 1 trillion or a few trillion planets in which we have life, and that's it. So that's what we're dealing with. And that's us. That's you and I. It's a Kobe photograph of you and I. The Milky Way galaxy, 300 or 400 billion. Stars everywhere. And our star, this incredible beauty. The cosmos is gorgeous. It's not only technical, not only scientific, but she's a beauty. So I'm not used to running the mouse, but I'm supposed to point told me I was supposed to point, not use my laser. No, I need to go back. I will get there. You see that? Sorry. You see the white dot, and you know what that is. The Voyagers, they've been out there for 33 years. They're every bit as successful, every bit a bigger triumph as putting people on the moon. They're defining the edge of our solar system. The cost of space station, as an aside, is that we could have had 400 Voyagers. We could have had dozens of landers on every planet and every moon of every planet. We could add 100 different channels. You simply tune up. You see Pluto, Triton, Europus, you know what I'm saying? You just have 100 different channels and you tune up and you could have seen landers on every one of those places. That's the cost. But the Voyagers, they've left the solar system. I know you've seen this image, but it's the most powerful image that I have. And that is, before they left, we looked over our shoulder with one of them, and we looked at Mother Earth from 5 billion miles. So that's us. We are indeed on a cosmic journey. That's where we are. Now, you look at the numbers, and you look at the time, and the power of life. But now you look at us as a single planet. If we were to get our stuff together, if the advanced evolutionary string could get along with itself, you notice I didn't call it intelligent. I'm not going to either. The advanced evolutionary string, if it can get along with itself and in balance with the other living creatures, and sustainable behavior with the only lifeboat it is ever going to have, then it is forever. It can live on this thing for hundreds of thousands, millions. Our own sun maybe got a 5 billion year lifetime, but that's enough. So if you look at technological development, maybe we've been at it, whatever you want to call it, 100, 200 years, industrial revolution. But you see, look at some planet and some creatures that got it together, and they were able to build technology over millions of years. They're doing star travel. That's how good they are. So I have no proof. I have the faith and I have the certainty in my own being that there's millions of people doing interstellar travel. It's just the way it is. But while I'm on that subject, where do I come from? I'm like you, but I learned some terms here, and so I'm kind of an investigator. That's what I do in life. I'm an investigator, a field investigator. But I go through life, and I'm a witness, and I look at the goings and comings of the universe. I'm an observer. I collect stuff, and I listen to other people. You know, I collected data, and I'm one of 7 billion humans, and I may be a little eccentric in my perceptions and reflections, my feelings and my intuitions, but it's the way I am, so it's the way you are too. So I arrive at reflections and I arrive at intuitions. I don't call them conclusions because I think that's too strong a word. So that's what I arrive at. I arrive at due to my genetics and what I've been exposed to and what my observations have led me to, and then I have a feeling, intuition, I think. Interstellar travel for me is going on. It's absolutely, there's millions of doing it. So that's what's going on. If a place can get its act together, if you read Olive Stapleton's Star Maker, a book that after I read it, I would never be the same again. It's an extraordinary thing. But he visited a whole bunch of different planets in his imagination. He did star travel, and he visited a whole bunch of different planets, and he saw how the advanced evolutionary string ran the planet. Some results are horrible, and some are absolutely glorious. So that's our home. That's Mother Earth. Mother Earth and the moon. That's our home. You're looking at right there. And now that's a painting that I did. So thank you. Well, Intel asked me to come to them and spend half a day with them on a symposium of the future of the world. I says, no, what, Intel? And they want me to tell them about the future of the world. I'm not going to turn that. I'm not going to do that kind of thing, man. That's, wow, I can't live up to that one. But I got the courage up. I'm not so good on a mouse here. This is a different enterprise. So I'll try a little spit. I'm sorry. No, I'm not so good. They checked me out on the machine, but I didn't do so good. Okay. But this is you and I. This is what we're all doing today. So you got Mother Earth, and you got the pictures of Mother Earth. But what is going on Mother Earth? On the left-hand side of and I'll talk this through because I'm being recorded. On the left-hand side of the picture is supernova events, and as far as we know, and as you know, supernova events is the only way the cosmos produces big molecules. Big molecules, of course, is the way carbon hooks to itself. That's almost the definition of life. If we didn't have carbon hooking to itself, we wouldn't have the big molecules that are necessary for the complexity that we are. And this is a picture of complexity. It's complexity on a planet, which is exponentially growing. And so you have reproductive events going on in this kind of soup. These big molecules produced by, on the left-hand side, by supernova events. And you have a reproductive system like a DNA and RNA. Now, I think the carbon-to-carbon bond, in my own thinking, I don't know, of course, don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. You know that? But if you know it all, you can't learn anything, so at least you got a vacuum here, which will take in anything it gets. But, my philosophy, I go a lot of different places, but God, God? I celebrate the fact that she is never going to undress for us. Okay. I celebrate that, and I'm happy about that because it's the journey. Forever, it's the journey and it's the quest. It's the quest for our universe. It's the quest for the meaning and the hope we got here. I do not think that DNA and RNA are cosmic imperatives. That means there's physical and biochemical principles of the universe that will cause those things to happen everywhere. I do think that the carbon-to-carbon bond, I do think when we get out there and we're able to do test tube biochemical analysis, I do think that life will be very familiar. But I do not think necessarily it'll be DNA and RNA. I think that is peculiar to Earth. And that you will find other ways of reproductive and memory kinds of systems. But this incredibly globe, this Mother Earth, which is evolving, this evolving complexity. But if you read a book like Teilhard de Chardin, and he talks about, Teilhard, he talks about this arising complexity that starts with soup and it ends up with spirituality. And so he was a Jesuit, he put it in various ways, but a lot of my art came from his kind of ideas of the rising complexity. Lower left on this evolving Earth is microscopic pictures of the plants. And you see, of course, the nervous system. And at the top of the screen, mostly you see the silicon world. So on the atomic table, of course, silicon is related to carbon. So if we can ever have silicon creatures, I'm not sure. I don't know about that. But we carbon creatures are doing silicon creatures That is the information age. And so every single second of the day, as you well know, the silicon world is accelerating at a huge pace. The technology of the silicon, but also that tightness between the silicon and the carbon world. And so, our entire globe, you have an evolving complexity which is growing, you know, and getting tighter and tighter, and an acceleration, exponential, of complexity, for better or for worse, I cannot say. So I also think that it's a cosmic imperative. You see the planets out there. I think it's a cosmic imperative that complexity will arise on every single planet out there. It's, you know, conducive to life. Of course, you all know that. Conducive to life means life as we know it is able to survive. Drake equation or whatever else, or however else you wish to look at that. But I also think the silicon world is happening out there too. And the complexity arises. And I get some arguments, story. I don't think you understand how entropy works. So no, I understand how entropy works, but the sun is pushing entropy uphill. You see when yeah, someone else can confirm that. We're taking energy, so I'll respond. The sun is pushing entropy uphill because we're in our closed loop system. We're taking energy from the sun, and that's pushing, that's what's creating the second law of thermodynamics, pushing that stuff uphill. So that's who we are. Now, for this system, you know, for us humans, or for the system here, I think it is totally essential that we acknowledge and accept the other. The other is that evolutionary string. The other is a planet out there. It's life, whether it's super, incredibly advanced being. I think it is absolutely essential to our being and how we live to accept the fact that there's trillions of others out there. It's part of our Copernican growth. The whole darn thing does not go around us. So for centuries, we made the anthrocentric era in which the universe goes around us. But the Copernican growth is the geometry of the universe. It's Darwin, it's Heisenberg, it's Freud in the subconscious. It's all those things. Those big principles in which we find out who we are. We will be different people if we accept the fact of the other out there. It's absolutely essential. Now, I know the implications of real contact and the implications of communication with the other out there. That's the topic for what we have today. There's nothing more important. That is a single event that could happen in all of our lives. There's nothing more important. And I know you're addressing that in your speeches, and you'll have the people to deal with that tomorrow. But it's not only spiritual, but it's also science and it's technical. We as scientists, we got one example. We got that example right there. We only have one. All our conclusions about how this stuff happens is on one sample, Mother Earth. We will never know ourselves until we can meet up with another and see how that happened out there. It is so incredibly exciting on every kind of level to think about meeting that other. But it's essential that we accept that other even before it happens. You like that? That is the posture of exploration. It's you guys, and I love you guys. It's you. There's nothing there. There's some stupid cockroach or rock or something else. But see, it's native curiosity. That's what you do. And, you know, I know that's who you are. You want it. It's my universe. That's what it's all about. It's about exploration. And it's about native, innocent excitement about everything around. And it's surrendering to what's there. And it's being moved by it. It's being moved. It's not, I'm going to conquer the mountain. I'm going to surrender to the mountain. I'm not going to conquer space. Hey, give it to me, baby. Move me. That's what it's about. So, it happens to be me at the age of 3, that's 73 years ago, doing what I do out there. At that age there, I went in the forest, as John said. And so, I had to get Mom. I put Mom on a slippery slope. Even at the age of 3, I was smart. And so you put her on a slippery slope. So she opened the door, and I had 1,000 acres. So I'm a farm kid, dairy farm, Western Massachusetts. So I put Mom on a slippery slope. I kept moving her, see. So I go further and further out, but so he keeps coming home. So after a while, we don't know where he is, but it doesn't matter, because, you know, I put her on a slope where I keep going further. And then I worked her on the sunset. I started working on that. So I go out, the sun's going down, I come back. I keep going out, and then I'm going out when it's really dark, and then I go out when it's night. But Mom, I've worked her on a slope, so okay, he's doing what he does. So I went in the pine forest at night. And so as a 3-year-old, and you say, how could Mom possibly do that? How could you do that? Well, a pine forest can't hurt you. So you just surrender to it. The pine forest, you got the wonderful straw. And when you walk through and it's really dark, you lead with a hand in case you any low-lying limbs, you don't scratch your face. But that's who I am. So fortunately, I got raised like Coleridge, Wordsworth, Shelley, Keats, Emerson, Thoreau, where you go out to nature for direct revelation. That's what y'all do. You know, you go out and you listen to the universe and you look for stuff, and that's it. And you have the faith. I'm out there and I got the faith. I got the faith that it's good. And I got a faith good things are going to happen, and there's no fear. You go out there with faith at the age of 3. I built my own rafts. I went down the river at age 5, just roped a bunch of logs together and got on. But thank goodness for Mom that she never kind of worried too much about what was going on. But in western Massachusetts, cold. It was -10 Fahrenheit. That's cold. One time it says, Mom, I'm going out. You know, she didn't tell me it's cold, and she didn't ask me why, and she didn't ask me where I'm going. She didn't do nothing. She just kept putting the layers on. She kept putting the layers on. Mittens are warmer than gloves. Mittens, and she pinned them. Safety pins, both sides. Because if I'm in mittens, I can't do the safety pins. So I can't get the gloves off, either way. And she got all this buttoned up. Only recently to understand what Mom was doing. Mom was making sure I could not pee. Can't pee. She gonna get me home. But that's what we're all about. So we're about exploration. Exploration, innocent, going out there and surrendering to the thing with an open mind, you know, to all the possibilities, an open and a loving and a faith. And this is okay. So that's just gorgeous. That's the posture of exploration. Another kid, 35 years later, I saw him on the beach, took the picture. I don't know who he is. The guy's famous. Someday he'll walk up to me and say, hey, Stuart, it's me. But anyway, that's what it's all about. That's my baby. So she's Story Jr. That's my little 5-year-old. So life comes around, and she's doing what the kids do. She's out there exploring. So in just a few grains of sand is a whole universe. So I look at her and I celebrate her, just immense joy every second, but I see the same process going on of that the exploration. That's what we at MUFON are all about. So that's what we're going to do. We're all on this cosmic journey. I'm going to talk about experience. I'm going to talk about reflections, intuitions, kind of impressions that I got with my explorations. I am going to spend a little more time on aviation and space because a lot of you are aviators, but space is, Blaine will tell you, Blaine, my buddy astronaut out there that I worked with a lot, it's a huge privilege, and I understand it. It's a massive privilege. There was luck and timing that I got there, you know. So it's a massive privilege, and it's a responsibility you have to give the best. To be the kid, you know, to be the kid and get out there and give the best you can to explore what's out there and to bring it home for other people, to catch it in the ways you can. So I'm going to take you on a journey. A little bit of the story is repair of Hubble Space Telescope, but that's only so I can deal with the topic that we have tonight, and that's being field investigators. So we got any red people in the crowd? Yeah, we do. We got red. Oh, there's a red. Anyway, I was born and raised on a farm, so it's essential to who I am, this nature and this going out and exploring my world. But that's what I do today. So today I am a landscape architect. I run a landscape company. I do 5, 10, 15, 20 acres. I operate 40 pieces of heavy equipment, manual labor, all the rest of that stuff. That's the same tractor I drove 66 years ago, a Farm All In. It's not the identical one, but it's the same model and all. So here I am today driving the same thing I did 66 years ago. Life comes around, but also it's kind of practical. It's a full-fledged operating tractor. It hadn't run it. It's a 9044, so it is reliable. Of course, a 44, you know how that goes. You know where I got it, of course. You got it on eBay. Where else you got eBay or something like that. So it hadn't run in 5 years, so washed the fuel tank out, washed the carburetor out, new fuel, hit the button, it started. So I've been operating ever since. So I have a fully operating tractor that I use in my business, and it only cost me $2,000. So, a bit of that. And I also grow trees. I've grown 15,000 trees, and they're out in the landscape. So I'm a farm kid. That's what I do in life. So it's another lesson that I have for you. That's do what comes easy, do what you're good at. We know about passion. Passion gives you the energy. Passion is the energy. That's what pushes you forward and the things you like. Fork in the road, passion, go. But also choose something you're good at. If you're weak, you say, I got a weakness, I got to work on that. No, don't work on that. Forget you even have it. Work on what you're strong at. Because you know what you're strong at, you can push it up to here. You can really excel. You can be the best in the world and make a difference if you work on what you're strong at. That's another lesson. But anyway, so I'm into this kind of stuff. I know a lot of you are interested in ecology, environmental, and the relationship between MUFON and sustainable kind of living. I never finished school because the bus left me at the barn, picked me up at the barn. I did the homework. I had no books. I didn't know nothing. So I separated from school. Me and the books at that time were not compatible. So, but they became compatible later on. There's a timing in life. So I ran off with the Marines. What are the Marines going to do with me? I tried to enlist at 16. I got a long way. I got to boot camp, but the paperwork caught up with me. They were not happy. It's Private Musgrave. You signed at the bottom of the sheets that everything above is truthful, to the best of your knowledge. You lied. That's not good on government forms. But they liked my spirit. They come back a year later. Here we are. So they made me a mechanic, of course. So I was an instrument mechanic, every instrument in the airplane and every electricity. There were short engine mechanics that did that. So that's me in Korea. But it plays into, it's very important, and it's nature and technology. That's what I did. So that's a little look at life. I'm back in the early 50s. Now, I don't really celebrate this, and I hope someday we don't have this. So I was a 17-year-old kid doing what I did, you know, serving my country and working hard, trying to do things right. But someday I hope we don't have this. We can't keep doing this. We, the advanced evolutionary string, we have to stop this. The number one mandate we have is to get along with ourselves. So, but anyway, I started flying with the Marines too. Thank you. Well, you really have a sense for that, so that's why I love you. You have a sense for that. I caught that as soon as I started to meet you. You have the big, broad, this huge picture of where we fit in the cosmos, and it's just incredibly stimulating to have that. But that's me in the Marine Corps, and within months I became a plane captain. A plane captain does their own maintenance on the airplane, but I had 3 airplanes that are mine. I own those airplanes. I coordinate the maintenance, I do the maintenance, and I am the one that's accountable and responsible. I sign the 300 items off, say, this airplane is certified for flight. I did that at the age of 18. So mechanical-wise, I grew up very fast. I designed the Hubble telescope. I spent 18 years on it. Before I went to fix it, they told me 1975, Story, we'll put a big telescope in space. Lyman Spitz at Princeton got the idea. And he said, Story, you look after that machine. You identify every possible contingency, every failure, and you come up with the tools and the procedures during the spacewalk to look after that machine. And of course, I was your lead mechanic to go and repair it on the big first repair mission. It's a very important lesson. I got a job because I'm a farm kid and airplane mechanic. That's why I got the job. So it's not all those advanced degrees. That don't fix stuff, that kind of thing. So I started flying with the Marines, if you call this flying, but it's, the most accurate thing you can do is to dive vertical on the target. If you're absolutely vertical, you just pickle everything off and it falls on the target. You can't miss. But you have to be careful that you are not one of the bombs, that you, anyway, I try to be humorous about all this. So that's what I was doing back then. Then I went to aircraft carrier. And for you naval aviators, you notice there's no catapult pulling me off there. But this was my beginning, and I took aviation serious. It is a platform. So UFO is identified, it is a flying object, and so it does put you in a different relationship. And you look around, and even in the earliest days, I looked around. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I did look around, you know, for what's going on in the world. You notice there's no catapult. We flew them off then, and you hope when you got to the end that you had enough speed to go flying. So very ironically, on the same carrier, the USS Wasp, flying the same airplane, my brother, I did not get enough, and he went in the ocean, and the carrier ran over him. So that's what I've been doing. That's who I am. So I've been in the airspace world now for almost 60 years, with 18,000 hours of flying, all different kinds of things. So I did aerobatic shows. I owned a Blanca Decathlon for 10 years. I also owned a sailplane. Sailplanes are gorgeous. They're not so good for observations because you can't fly them at night, because you have to be able to land, you know. When you run out of rising air, you have to land somewhere, and it's not good at night, so they're not so good as observation airplanes. I do have a type rating and a citation, but this particular air show I was at, this air event, they said, Story, we'll give you a choice. You can only take one of these beauties. Which one do you choose? You know what I took? I took the John Deere. Of course I did. Yeah, the magic of this one, though, is my first time I ever saw a citation was my check ride. So 100% is training in a simulator. So it tells something about the virtual world. So my first examiner said, Story, citation. Yes, sir. Okay, it's a beautiful airplane. Yeah. So the first ride was my check ride. My second ride was a single pilot waiver to fly alone. That was my second ride. So, but it's very important now. In the old days, it wasn't like this. So 100% of your training is in the simulators. So technology and nature and being out there, being open. That's who I am. You see, you look at who you are, how you got, and what you have to offer to the world, what you got to offer to NASA. Who I am here, I'm technology, I'm nature. Got raised going out into nature and with machinery. So that's who I am. And so from there, people always ask me, do you always want to be an astronaut? And I have to remind them, in the 1930s, I didn't want to be an astronaut. There were none, so I had to wait till that happened later on. So I took a little detour after I begged my way into school, Syracuse. I got into exotic mathematics. I went out here to UCLA Graduate School in Computers. They had the biggest computer in the world out here. So I was hardware computers, also programmed, but I got interested in how the brain works. I got real interested in how a computer works this way. How's the brain work? And so there's no vacuum tubes in the brain. You're asking, what's a vacuum tube? There's a few of you I see out here know what a vacuum tube is. That was the gate that established what electrons get through or not, you know, about a business. I got interested in the brain. So back to pre-med. And so my education is, you know, it's back to pre-med. Then it's the medical school at Columbia. And I went from there. And then I'm training as a surgeon, neurosurgeon, neurophysiology, and the space program happened. So I leaped off to there. And so when I joined NASA, we had to be military pilots. I had no jet time. I had only the big prop. So I took up flying when I left the Marine Corps. But I had no jet time, you know. They wanted military wings back then. So I joined the Air Force. It was one fantastic time getting checked out. And that led me to this fantastic beauty. Just an incredible beauty. The Northrop T-38. It's 50 years old. It's a classic in design. I teach it as a design triumph at Art Center College for Design in Pasadena, where I'm a professor. And It's the lowest cost, the highest performance, lowest maintenance. You can change 2 engines in 3.5 hours. It's got no bad handling. It's just a gorgeous machine. They've extended it to 2025. It'll be 65 years old. So why are we flying a 65-year-old airplane? Because we cannot improve upon it. They put a contract out in the street for the next one, but what they're offered not as good as what they got. But anyway, this airplane is going to take me. It's a gorgeous thing. It's going to take me to beautiful places. So I said, it deserves to have a camera. I said, that's my airplane. They're giving that to me just to show that I'm the best in the business every second of the day. They want to keep me sharp in terms of aerospace, discipline, the checklist, operating limitation, all that stuff. So I said, I owe it. I owe it to carry a camera. I carried a camera. I've shot the airplane for 44 years. That's how long I photographed anything. So it's just, it's doing the best you can. I was the maintenance test pilot on the airplane too. Functional check flights and standard eval and that stuff. But you know what a maintenance test pilot is? Heavy maintenance, that means periodic, where you got pieces all over the hangar floor. They put them back together and I fly it to see if it works. That's what I did. So that's where we go fly like that. But you can see the difficulty of taking pictures. When you have manual focus and you can't get the thing up the eye, you have to put the ring. You judge the distance where you are from something, you put it in the ring, and it was manual exposure too. But that's where we button up in case stuff happens. So I lucked out on this one. I got a sunset going on. I've got the optical characteristics of the canopy and my circle polarizing filter. I was just there and I had a camera. I don't deserve this one, but I stalked it and I got it. So there's the mountains of New Mexico, the Grand Canyon of the Colorado. Now, I really wanted to do it as an observing platform. And as I'm going to get to, night is when you see things. So we'll talk some more about that. But the way I go look for stuff, our kind of stuff, is night. I want night. I want to be in the dark, and I want the object I'm looking at to be in the sunlight, because I can see that from thousands of miles. That's power, man. So that's my ultimate, that I am in dark, the object of interest is in light. So in terms of aviation observations and space observations, that's what I'm looking for. Now, Mother Earth is an incredibly bright thing, and it just fills you with a lot, and it's just hugely difficult. You can't see the little object 1,000 miles away. You simply can't. But the T-38 was very difficult, didn't have autopilot, didn't have flight director. You had to fly it. And you got to maintain your altitude. You've got to be where in the sky you're supposed to be. So I do the lights up and down, but you still have to get that light. So it had no autopilot, and so it wasn't a perfect platform for me because I kept having to turn the lights on. Now, if I have someone in the front seat who can fly the airplane, I can be in the back, get all the lights off. And maybe I can do a little more observation. So I got the idea of doing a book, which I have. A lot of you bought the book, and I'll have it for you later on. But to get a great picture here, I'm cheating here, I know. I cheat, sure. The mechanics adore me, I'm one of them. I got a perfect flight line here because I got launch pad B. The shuttle's going to launch here in a night launch, and I'll use the shuttle to light up my beauties, right? Look at that. That's cheating, I know. People say, cheat story? Okay. Now, that's a day launch, and so it's a different pad, so I couldn't line them all up. But you see the wonderful the shadow there. But that plume is going to go outrageous. That plume is just going to go, you can't believe it. They're supposed to disperse. Now, I think you've seen the plumes of launches. Some of them do this kind of stuff. They're supposed to disperse, but somehow the dynamic, just a gorgeous thing. If you want more of this, it's STS-117 launch images. But I'm going to leave this PowerPoint with you. To anyone that wants the show I'm giving you tonight, take it with you. It'll be in this computer. I'll give it to you. If you bring up your flash drive or PC, I'll give you this, but I'm leaving it with MUFON. So it'll be, that's it. It's just outrageous. So, but you see, you're there. Those are the kids we showed. You're there. That's all. You're there doing the best you can to be an observer and to catch it. You have a camera. I don't deserve this picture, but I was there and had a camera. That's what it's all about, field investigation. That's ASA-64. Should not have been able to get this picture. 600 miles an hour bobbing around, but I can't change film. I'm a Hasselblad. I have to accept what I got. So I'm looking at later on, but the sun's just coming up, so I got to accept that. So it's a timed exposure, manual focus, and manual exposure. Somehow I pull the thing off. So that's operational photography. And a lot of times you wonder in spaceflight, you wonder why we didn't get stuff, and because it's operational. A lot of times we don't get stuff. I'm going to tell you about SDS-6, an incredible blizzard of excess fuel, an incredibly blizzard of tools, bolts, washers, the whole thing coming out of payload bay. I didn't have a camera because the engine just shut down at the end of launch. I didn't have a camera that stowed. It's packed away, it's back there, and so sometimes you miss things. And my first shuttle flights, I only had ASA up to 100, and everything was manual, and that's all I had. So you asked me to shoot at night. Well, I got really interesting. That's why I want to shoot. That's when I want to shoot the objects out there that I don't know what they are and they're interesting to me, but they give me ASA 100. I can't do much. So anyway, when you wonder, so just talking about a little bit of that. Most powerful rainbow I ever saw in my life. So I parked at Ellington Field, Houston, Texas, and that's why it's a Sunday. That's why there's no people there. I went to my car. I said goodbye. I turned to say goodbye to my baby. It's the most powerful rainbow I ever saw. It's in my face. Just absolutely gorgeous thing. And I backed as far away as I could. I backed up against the hangar, but I can't move left or right because I'll move the rainbow. And so I shot I can't get enough. There's a stitch. So I shot the left, and then I shot the right, and I had NASA stitch it for me down there. In my book, of course, digital. That's 1990 stitch in my book of digital. So we took care of that. So that's what it's all about. Let's get out there and be the best you can. Did a book, what you got. Apollo Saturn V, the magic of that thing, and I won't spend too much time on that. I got to scoot along. I need to finish up by 11 here, so I got to get going a little faster. I trained on Apollo, so I was a backup crew member for the first Skylab mission, Skylab, our first space station. We flew it in 1973, so I was backup for May of 1973. But the magic of Apollo Saturn V, how simple the vehicle was. So the requirements to go to the moon, we picked the simplest technology to go. So Apollo and Saturn, it's simple, it's beautiful, it's elegant, it's understandable, it's robust, viable, it's just an incredible system. But I show you that system to lead into what our topic tonight is, and that is that's the moon ship. But this was the right moon for the job, the right thing for the job. I used to calculate Saturn aborts when we only had one stupid little automobile computer, but we didn't need it. We went to the moon and back. We didn't need the computer. We had one single string, but we had all the raw data and mechanical, and we had the raw data and mechanical ways of flying. Now, so I used to calculate. It's just glorious. I calculated launch aborts on a Saturn with an HP 35 calculator, not a computer. I did these funny little things here. And then we leveled the wings, and we had little scratch marks along the window frame, and we would put the horizon where the marks are on the window frame. And so that's the way we did that. Now, we also did the orbital mechanics. So that's why I showed you this Apollo, because I learned orbital mechanics. And I find orbital mechanics is very important when you're looking at objects out there. You understand orbital mechanics, you can do a lot better with an object. And so I learned manual stuff with Apollo. We did manual burns. We just did burns. So I can do a Hohmann transfer in my head right now. I don't even need pencil, piece of paper. Where am I? Where do I need to go? I can do that in my head. So I learned orbital mechanics. Now, why are they important? Well, if you're looking at some object out there, it's important to know, are you in the same plane with it? But if the object, let's say that this is Earth, and we're flying around like this. If the object is below me, it's going to go faster. It's going to speed up. Now, it's at a slower velocity, but it's smaller radius. But the orbital mechanics, I'm up here, it's down here, it's going to go faster than me. The angular velocity. If it's higher than me, it's going to go slower. So I can use orbital mechanics as a way of judging how far down is something and how far high is something. So it's very important like that, to look at an object and see its behavior. So you can assume no burn at all. It's not burning. What is its behavior? And that tells you, is it in orbit with me? Because sometimes you can't tell the distance. If it's out of plane with you, I guarantee you that it's hypervelocity. I'm going to get to that later. When you're only 30 miles from something, and it's going by you at 30,000 miles an hour, that is fast. You cannot believe how fast that you can't even whip your head fast enough. But I'm going to tell you about that, because I worked on those too. I worked on every experience that I could. But the orbital mechanics is important. Now, if you postulate some burn, then if you can see the way it's burning, you know, a given burn, how the thing's got to end up. But it reminds me of STS-80, where STS-80 got a lot of attention. It's a gorgeous formation. It is a spectacular formation that gets your attention. It's just there's a central object and others. There's a nice formation around it. The problem is I'm looking out the window, but I would like to have spoken with all the people, had a different interpretation, and it's fair. Like I said, I'm a witness to the world. I make observations, and I absorb stuff. Then I arrive at my own impressions, and they have a right to arrive at their own. But a lot of impressions were arrived at because they thought it was far away, like 100 or 200 miles away. Now, if those objects were 100 miles away, that would be really interesting stuff. That would be gorgeous stuff. Man, you'd really be onto something if they were that far away, but they weren't. So you can't just look at the videos and tell how far away, and that's essential to how you interpret. You do a field investigation. Some people even thought they were down in the atmosphere. So the orbital mechanics is incredibly important for that kind of stuff. It'll help you to do a better analysis of the kind of things that you get into. Now the other thing about STS-80, if they were that far down, unless but you have to be open. Some of you might tell me, well, they got an anti-gravity engine or something anti-gravity, but if they're that far down, they had no velocity because they're following me. So they're following me from much, much lower, and that means they're too slow, they're going to fall out of the sky unless they have an anti-gravity engine, something like that. So anyway, it's a little bit of thinking. That's what I've got to give you. So we then went to a much more complex vehicle at the Space Shuttle system. Now, we are celebrating that we finished that up. It's a reasonable time to decommission the shuttle. Much more expensive, much more dangerous than we planned. Now, it didn't turn out the way we wanted to, but I still consider a major triumph. If you look at where we were in '74 and where we are in 2011, we're very, very mature. We're very good operators. We're good spaceflight. It was very difficult to operate, but we learned how to do that stuff. So science, technology, putting space station, all the kind of stuff we did, it really matured us, operating company. So I did the best I could. I did have 6 flights with this machine. But importantly, I flew with 27 different people. So I watched them. I watched them take to space. I flew with 17 rookies. And very importantly, I had 14 satellite events. So a satellite event is you let something go. But every time I let a satellite go, I didn't just put the burn solution in the shuttle and fly away. I watched that object. Yes, I know what's going to happen, but I want to be a good observer about what happens when I'm doing a certain burn. I want to watch that satellite because that makes me a good field investigator for what might happen later. So every single object I ever had, I tried to learn from that object how I'm going to do. Because I might see some object, later on. So I want to but I had 14 satellite kind of objects where I deployed them, or I went and rendezvoused and picked them up, or I let them go and then flew around them to do scientific experiments. So I had 3 satellites. I don't think anyone has ever done that. I had 3 satellites. I flew around. I had 2 out there at the same time. So I'm watching them, but I'm getting the binoculars. Can I see them in the daytime? And I can't see them in the daytime. So night, for a space flyer, and that's what I'm trying to give you now, a space flyer night is massively important. So you're going down the road, you'd like the object to be ahead of you. You're going down the road like this, and the sun comes up. The sun is on the object, and it's not on you, and it's not on Mother Earth, and oh man, wow, that's like a bright, 1,000 miles. That's 1,000 miles out there. So, but that's what that's all about. So I flew with a bunch of people, 47, and I was in mission control. So I was a CAPCOM for both of Blaine's missions. I was a capsule communicator mission control for 25 missions. So I had my own 6 spot. All in all, I trained on 31 missions. So I was a mission control learning for what goes on up there. And it's important that when you're on board, you can run the cameras, or the ground can run the cameras. But when you're sleeping, they take over the cameras. And so they downlink what they see. So the cameras on the shuttle, very important, have very good low light. They're very good low light cameras. Now, when you see the images, it's very hard to look at them without something out there. There's always something flying across the image. Almost 100% of the time that you have those low-level cameras, you got something, something flying across them. But it was an incredible thing to put the space station together and do the Hubble, carry the Hubble up like me working on it. It's a platform. Hubble Space, I told you I worked on 18 years designing that thing. They asked me to do it with a spacewalk like this. That's the way I got to work on a Hubble. So I had to make the Hubble friendly to this. And it's very bulky. It also doesn't have your body. I got a wonderful shoulder joint. That's the good news. The bad news is the suit doesn't have a shoulder joint. So it's got its body. You put the two together. And it's also got mass, as you understand. It's not weight, because we're in a free fall condition. We call it 0G. It's not 0G. It's free fall. But when you think you're going to be a nimble squirrel walking along like that, no, you're hauling 500 pounds with you. And when you get to the end, you got to have a way of stopping. So that's what that's about. So I designed the Hubble Space Telescope to be able to be working on with that. How would you like to change on a motherboard looking like that? Well, I had to. Hubble lost 50% of its memory. So I designed the Hubble to make it friendly. So you could do motherboards, you could do memory chips, and you could do all the other things. So I identified over 18 years all the possible failures that could go wrong with a telescope and designed the Hubble in terms of serviceability, maintainability, artist concepts. This is before I got paperwork, computer graphics. There's the real Hubble. When I got a real Hubble, I took real components out, put them back in. She's on the way to launch pad here. She's in the canister going, well, I really showed that for the Bobcat. See, I want your Bobcat. Technology. The Bobcat's wondering, what are you guys doing now, So there it is up in space. I was not out on the mission. They carried it up, but I was in mission control. So carried it up. You got the heavens and earth coming together. That's the aperture door. When it opens, let the light from the heavens. But you got Mother Earth there. So here it is, often flying in the background of the wonderful Andes Mountains and South America, Pacific. And that's Chile, Peru, Bolivia. There. Within a couple months, we had to sign up for the fact. Spherical aberration. We had put the wrong mirror in the telescope. It was the world's most perfect mirror, but it was the wrong one. It didn't focus the light where the instruments picked it off. So in my 18 years, when they told me story, identify every possible problem we could have with the telescope, I was not cynical enough to have a line item that says NASA put wrong mirror in telescope. I should have done that. So I don't have time. It's terrible, negligent. There was no quality involved, no procedures involved. They did stuff way off the book without telling anyone, but it's instructive for all of you, if you haven't been there already, to simply go to the internet. Hubble mirror accident. Just put it in. You'll get a PDF from the Allen Commission, JPL, out here, how we did that. So I got a mission to go fix 13 major items. I got the mirror to take care of. I got 12 other major items. When you go to the car dealer and you get a new car and it doesn't get you home, it's not because it wore out on the way home. It's because it was no good to start with. So bad design or bad quality. So that's the face. We're going to water tank. And, of course, I'd like to have a huge zero-G facility, a mock-up of the shuttle, mock-up of the telescope in the back of it, and turn gravity off, but I can't. Maybe, I do have faith. I got a faith. I have no evidence. I got the faith we can deal with that someday. I got the faith that someday we will transcend the linear, wormhole. I just got the faith. Don't ask me how. No idea. I got the faith we can get around linear time and distance someday and be able to get there faster than we currently envision. But can't turn gravity off, so I go and practice. It gives you a three-dimensional feel of what you're doing, how you move around. But it's not a perfect simulation. In space, my suit floats and I float inside my suit. You see, everything's floating, not true in the water. If I up down the water, I'm carrying 160 pounds on my collarbone. But it's good for this. Big power tool. Zzz. If you pull that trigger on, you haven't tied yourself down. You spin on the end of the wrench. That's what happens. That's Newton's law. So I trained in the Smithsonian because now the Hubble's up there flying. I'm worried about the mock-ups they give me, not the right measurements. So this engineering qualification unit you see there, I was guaranteed that had the same measurements. So I took my instruments that I'm going to install, like this one here, magnetometer. So I know who's got the time. How am I doing on time? Now, I guess, Jan, you're the time guy? Finish up in 20 minutes? Half an hour? I'm doing fine? Okay. It's what? I'll finish up in 20 minutes? Okay, he says I'm doing fine. Okay, we got till time. That's a real instrument. That's a magnetometer I got there. And so it's marvelous the way Hubble points. Hubble points by using energy from the sun, which converts a solar panel to electricity, and that runs so we turn magnets on or off. That's the ultimate way Hubble points, gets its energy to point. You got 4 bar magnets, and the computer looks at the magnetic field of Earth, and it turns bar magnets on or off. It's got control moment gyros, but the real ultimate force. Anyway, this was fit and function test. Tomorrow, I'm just showing you this so you understand a little bit about space, and it's interesting for your kind of investigations, and that is, tomorrow I'm going to go in a vacuum chamber at the anticipated flight temperatures to test my instruments and my tools. So that's as close as you can get. Now, what's the temperature in space? Here in urban, you put a temperature on the air, but there's no air in space. So as most of you well know, temperature in space is purely radiative exchange. But to make the problem simple, I want Mother Earth, man. I want a face full, I want Mother Earth. I want a face full of Mother Earth. My tools are me. Because I go around Earth on average at 59 Fahrenheit. So we're in the summer here, southern hemisphere, it's winter. And day, night, warm, cold, and you got some, as you go around every hour and a half, 59 degrees. And even from 370 statute miles, where I'll be for Hubble, you give me enough Mother Earth, I'm going to 59 Fahrenheit on my surface. And it's a gorgeous temperature. It's a nice concept that you have radiative exchange. Now, if you don't have Mother Earth and you get the blackness of space, it's 3 degrees Kelvin. 3 degrees above absolute zero. What's that? Minus 480 something. You're not in the game for long. You can't do that. And so, what's your temperatures? I know some of you are thinking, hey, Store, when you get in the sun, that's going to burn you up. Well, the sun is the area of your thumbnail. So your sun is 6,000 degrees on the surface, as you know, but around it is 3 degrees Kelvin. So it averages out okay, even if you're in the bottom of the bay, in concave. So that's going to be 400 degrees, worst case. And that you can do all right with. But on this mission, the Hubble says you cannot let sunlight get in any open doors. So they are feeding all this to the person that points the shuttle. You ride in the back with a telescope, that point the shuttle. But 3 open doors, that constrains your ability to point. The shuttle wants to put its antennas to different places up there, so it's hugely constrained. They can't get me enough Mother Earth. And the guy that got the gas, he's critical. He got the gas. So he could do maneuvers to help everyone, but he won't give up his gas. He wants to get me home. Well, I want to get home too, but I need a little gas to do some maneuvers. So I get some Mother Earth. They wouldn't give me no gas. They made me run at minus 170 Fahrenheit. I said, guys, the gloves, it's not going to work. My tools won't like it, because 50% of my tools came from the hardware store. I'm a simple-minded farm kid, right? So I go in there 13 hours. It stung so bad, I had to take temperature breaks. The accident report had to take temperature breaks. My hands stung so bad. At the 8-hour point, my hands got comfortable. They didn't warm up the chamber. My hands got comfortable? Yeah, ma'am. You know why it's no good, because they were dead. So me, a lead spacewalker, I got 8 dead fingers 6 months before a flight. And so I knew they were dead. As soon as I took the gloves off, and no one can get near me. I'm so cold, no one can get near me. They can't even get near me, because I'm just radiating. It's unbelievable cold. But my fingers are blue. They were already, just when I pulled them out of the gloves after 13 hours. I got a call in the middle of the night. It says, go to the airport, Story. Don't ask questions, go to the airport. So they sent me to Alaska, world's frostbite expert, of course, in Anchorage. He was optimistic. He did scans, how much is going to fall off. But I got back in a suit. I got to go to work. I'm not just trained on this mission. I have to develop. I haven't got the dance down. It's a dance. It's ballet. It's a ballet, every move, finger, toe, every precision. The whole dance you're going to do. I don't have that down yet. And me nor the rest of the crew, so go back in a suit. Said, Tori, you can't do that. You get back in a suit, those things are going to fall off. I said, I don't care if they fall off. I can shorten the fingers of the gloves. It'll work, okay? I'll take care of that. When they said it's radical, what choice? What choice I got? I got no choice. But anyway, We put heaters in the gloves, and now they took gas from that guy. We need to maneuver. We need to get him and his tools some Mother Earth. So they redesigned the mission. Now it's just, so we discovered the problem on the ground. So here we are, arriving in this beautiful airplane down at Kennedy Space Center. We go fly the bird's eye view, which you love, and launch pads and but this is what space flight's all about, folks. It's a massive privilege to have a part in doing this thing. Now, beautiful airplanes and your spaceship down there. And your vehicle left Edwards, so this takeoff 747 flew across the desert coming. This is just gorgeous. It's a huge privilege to have a part in this technology landed at Kennedy Space Center, you see there. And then thank you. Oh. Well, back up one. So I guess I got some time. At one time, we were going to fly the shuttle. We were going to mount jet engines on the top of it, and when we had to transport it, we'd fly it like an airplane, but at huge cost and huge engineering problems about how it was going to handle, how it was going to fly. So there's a guy who's a model airplane person. He flies model airplanes, and so he got the stupid idea of, well, maybe he could put a shuttle on top of a 747. So he built him a 5-foot 747 model. He built him a scale model shuttle. He's flying around the sky, and NASA saw this guy and said, hey, maybe this will work in the real world. So that's creativity for you. We're going to stack this up. I'm going to roar through this. And this is Challenger's first flight. This is not Hubble. The fog adds a lot of richness to this, but it was very important in terms of our theme for tonight, in terms of what we're after tonight. The fact that I was on Challenger was massively important to my education of objects out there in space. So it was Challenger's first flight. I got to do the first shuttle spacewalk and all, but it was incredibly important. So this is a sunrise over the Atlantic. Space is gorgeous, you know. It's just spectacular. I always visit my ship the night before, the xenon lights reaching for the heavens. I go swim from here just because who I am. You know, I got to stay with Earth. I am Mother Earth. Every molecule I got, Mother Earth. So I feel I have to swim the night before. I go out in the ocean in the dark. But I check with Mission Control. I'm always checking with those guys. I'm one of them, you know, 25 missions. I always check with them. I knew Hubble had to be close to overhead, but I'm there swimming in the ocean, and I see the shooting star. I see Hubble going. And, you know, I'm looking at that streak. It's a story. You're going to be there tomorrow night. You understand that? It's just gorgeous. And so it's launch day. Now, I'm going to go down the road here. I'm going to go down the road, and when launch day, we look over at the Eagle, symbolic for flight, symbolic for America. So it's just in touch. And so we're going to round the corner down there and check out these guys on the way. But this is what I look for. I'm going into space and technology, but it's just who I am, and I think it's who most of you are too. This is what moves you, and you got to know this is okay, because you're an amphibian. You know, you're leaving. You're one of them, and you're leaving. So it is that kind of stuff that really moves me to be in touch with the creatures while I'm doing space flight. But if you work at Kennedy, you go to the parking lot at night, you look around, because if they had a bad day, they expect you to improve their day, you know. Maybe the best photo I got. And so that's Troy. That's Troy and me. He's my suit tech. So left, that's Troy. 30 years. We went on the journey for 30 years. He put me in Apollo. He put me in all the shuttles, the water tank, vacuum, everything. He's looking after my suit, my gloves, the helmet. He and I went on the journey. So it's 30 years. That's what life is about. It's about 30 years. It's that intense human communication of just raising the bar and being the best you can. That's my favorite launch picture. I got a bunch of them, but this is framed in nature. It's pure nature and the humans reaching for the heavens. It reminds me of 2001 and the shockwave. There's pure technology there, and here she's really pushing. My favorite ones, of course, are the timed exposures, digital cameras. Even though they're still photographs, they sort of capture the emotion. On a great night, I know a lot of you have seen launch, on a great night now, you'll disappear over the horizon. So I have to warn my poor kids that when I disappear into the ocean, things are going okay. That's what it's supposed to be. Now, these are amateur photos that people sent me. This is just a gorgeous. Yeah, I know. It's gorgeous. So it's just someone mailed me this. They got my email, and they attached a photo. So it's gorgeous what people do. They really nailed that one. That's a powerful thing. So some launch plumes. I showed you one of the T-38. These are Vandenberg. It's art form. And so it's not the plume that's so beautiful, but the plume is a palette in which the air currents, can paint themselves. It's just spectacular what's going on. So we in space now. We got into space. And those are front windows you're looking at. On Challenger's first flight, and I don't know what produces this condition versus some other flight I didn't have, but I had the right lighting. As soon as the engine shut down, this blizzard of ice, absolute blizzard. I mean, it's just like a blizzard comes forward. So we're sitting there, we just, you get the lightness like that, and your checklist float up, and your checklist are on tethers. If you lose your checklist, you're out of the game, They kick you out of the game. You're cut off, because flying the vehicle is what page and what book you're in. So you double tether, all your checklists are hanging on the strings. If you lose your checklist after all that training, you are cut off. You can't participate in the game, because the whole game, our checklist for flying the shuttle is roughly 12 feet. It's 12 feet wide, end on end. That's the checklist, 12 feet. But it's how you run a mission, what page, are on. And that's the way you and mission control stay synced up and all that. But anyway, as soon as you hit 0G, it's just wonderful. All your checklists unfold like a peacock tail. So they're all like doing this. It's gorgeous. But so we just went, like this. First time I had done a lot in the airplane. But all of a sudden, it's light, and your arms are up here, and you stuff your arms down, you see. But as soon as you relax, your arms are back in your face. So after you get friendly. Hi, I'm Story. Yeah, okay. Because they're going to be here, But the blizzard. Now, this is incredibly important because it educated me about debris and ice and that stuff. We got a blizzard. It's unbelievably gorgeous because you're looking at the physics, you see. So you got Newton's first. So velocity, both the angular velocity and also that, it's gonna be a constant unless they bump into each other or they fracture. If they bump, you're going to get this. And so a lot of people look at right angle maneuver, as a propellant or a rocket. Well, not necessarily. I'm not saying those things weren't there. I'm only saying my own personal experience is when you see ice fracture, you get that kind of motion. It's not that constant, Newton's first law. Boom. And also when you get a bump into something you can't see, another object out there, you will see those kind of motions. But we had thousands. So where does this stuff come from? When the engine shut down, it's not a perfect ratio between the oxidizer and the hydrogen. It's not a perfect ratio, and so you have excess one or the other. But for some reason, it all came forward, for whatever reason. So I just watched it. I just watched it forever, and I watched it disappear, and they turned into fireflies. So I had the perfect lighting, and they have a constant rotation, so constant velocity, but you look at constant rotation, unless they fracture. And so that rotation then makes them wink on and off. So after a while, I had hundreds of fireflies. Just spectacular beauty you see out there. So that was one part of Challenger that I got used to ice, and I studied the ice because I got to know what's ice and what's something else. So you're always trying to educate yourself, but I used it for that purpose. But when you open the doors on Challenger, so it was Challenger's first flight, years and years of manufacture, if you lose something behind something, you can't get it. It's there forever, okay? But the shake, rattle, and roll of launch, and then boom, 0G, it breaks all the stuff loose. So now 0G, it will get out. If you take a milk container, like a little hole, and you put a penny in it, and you put it somewhere, the penny will get out because you got little reaction control jets, and the penny, it'll bounce all around till it finds a hole, and out it comes. So open the door, Challenger, it's a hardware store. We got bolts, nuts, tools, washers. It's unbelievable what is coming out of that thing. And so, I looked at this big washer, and as I'm